Hey everyone, I'm Chris and welcome to the Ansible Library. And today on Return to Star Wars Legends, I want to talk about a book that is from a time before Star Wars really knew what Star Wars books were, from before sort of these canon timelines and interconnected stories. It's a book that feels way more like the 70s pulpy science fiction than a Star Wars story that I'm familiar with from today. And that book is the Lando Calrissian Adventures by L. Neil Smith. And this is his three books in one collection of Lando Calrissian and the Mind Harp of the Sharu, Lando Calrissian and the Flames Wind of Ocean, and Lando Calrissian and the Star Cave of Thonboka. And they were just these super unique, super different kind of feel than the Star Wars up to this point that I've been reading, going through the chronologically stories from my past and revisiting them all from my reading them as a child. And I remember when I would come upon this book, when I would be reading these books in order as a kid, that I never really liked it at the time. It was such a different experience from Star Wars books that it felt really out of place. It felt way more like just classic science fiction with sort of this Star Wars skin over top of everything. And I found I enjoyed it way more this time reading it than I have in the past. And I think that's because since I've been reading a lot more of those vintage classic science fiction stories, I can really appreciate this book for what it was and what it was for the time. And it just the same rules that apply to all the other Star Wars books didn't apply to this. And I thought Lando Calrissian was a great character to sort of explore this crazy side of Star Wars. And each story is just Lando Calrissian sort of on his adventures as as he's attempting to be this dashing rogue scoundrel gambler pilot. He's just this super like smooth and casual and roll with the punches and just like totally an honorable thief and having high morals and standards. And so he was a great character to experience these stories with. Each of the little books in this collection, it's just him on these crazy fantastical adventures. And it's like his learning on how to pilot the Millennium Falcon. And he's got this droid companion that he won at the beginning of the first book of Buffy Raw. And Buffy Raw is like one of my favorite characters for droids in all of Star Wars, I find. And I thought he was an amazing story. And he's this weird sort of like starfish, five-sided robot with these tentacles on each side. And he doesn't remember where he came from. He just knows that he is based off built based off the image of the species that built him. And so, but nobody knows of an alien species that looks like him. And he's this super intelligent, capable droid. And just the connection that he makes with Lando, I thought it was amazing. It was great. You really feel that they care about each other by the end of this series. And just but each book is just sort of this contained little like pulpy science fiction adventure story. That's the first one is dealing with this ancient technology and ancient lost civilization on a planet. And he's on this pretty much coerced and blackmailed into this treasure hunt for this ancient artifact that supposedly can control all the minds of sapient beings in the system. And turns out it's not that. And it has this really weird sort of aspect to it that's never that you would think has huge implications for like the galaxy as a whole, or at least this sector of space, but it's never sort of mentioned again in the rest of the Star Wars books. So there's a lot of that in this where things happen in this book that are just sort of swept under the rug for the rest of the expanded universe. And the second book is this weird sort of almost like undercover drug heist sort of. He is in the Ocean system where um, he's once again blackmailed and coerced into going undercover with the local police to sort of catch the richest human in the galaxy using and buying this super illegal drug. And he's got these like cops with him, and he's got to uh, get at the evidence of this. And it was just felt like this weird like crime drama set in Star Wars. And then it all like ends rather quickly. But the thing I love about these stories is all the locations are just totally unique and totally amazing for each book. And it has a different feel than all the other Star Wars expanded universe books. I feel like the first book in the Rafa system, it's the entire system is just totally covered with these impenetrable giant pyramids structures that they can't like get into, they can't blast inside, they can't see inside with x-rays. They're just totally indestructible and nobody knows what they are, and it's this mystery of these the civilization that built these that Lando's trying to figure out. And then the second book is the Ocean system, which was a system that was entirely destroyed by some cataclysmic event in its past, or it just never formed into a proper system. So it's just a system that's entirely asteroid fields. And it's one of the like richest systems in the world because all the wealthy build these like habitats on these asteroids and have their own like planetoids in it. And once a year, solar radiation gives us this system wide like fire northern light show almost, and it makes it impossible to travel and it messes with people's heads. And so of course Lando has to travel out through this to get to this do this undercover sting. And in the third book, it is this the star cave of Thumbaka is this nebula in space that is has developed inside the middle of it this sort of habitable zone for these creatures that evolved entirely in outer space, and they have an entire ecosystem that exists in outer space, and these super intelligent ginormous like 500 to 1,000 meter across living beings that live in space called the Oswaft, that are like these giant sort of manta ray jellyfish things that can communicate, and they can do natural hyperspace jumps and are just this totally awesome sort of race in Star Wars. I just thought like this was totally like unheard of in most of the other Star Wars things. And so even though this was like an older book and it feels really weird and it feels out of place from everything they did, he did a lot of really cool and unique things I felt with it. And and Lando's like journey through it from and growing into this competent, good pilot and fighter, but he always tries to use his brains first, and he always tries to not kill anyone or take lives, and only when necessary. And it's just establishing him as this like amazing character that I think the expanded universe needed more like this. The main villain throughout the series is this uh, Roker Gepta, and he's this sorcerer of Tund, and it's this weird, like they're almost a joke when like he realizes he's a sorcerer of Tund, because they're these like magicians that are like almost described like stage magicians, where it's like smoke and mirrors and flourishing, and they're so dead set on the belief that their magic is real, but it's just this weird sort of aspect. But he is this uh terrifying at times enemy to Lando, and there's a lot of times in it where you have to question like what is going on. Is he actually like got these mythical powers, or is it all just he's cleverly using technology? And there's a point in it where he's torturing Lando through what does he call it? It's like torture by chagrin, where it's he's like making everyone relive their worst memories over and over and over again. So they're slowly dying from chagrin. And I thought that was funny, but it was like, does he have these mythical powers, or is he somehow like a dark force user, or is this another aspect of the force that we don't know? I don't know. I know I usually give spoilers when I'm doing all this videos, but for some reason I don't want to give a lot away in this, because I want more people to read these ones, because um, it's a very unique sort of feel and a very unique take on Star Wars, and it it might seem pulpy and it might seem odd, but I loved it for that, and I definitely enjoyed it way more this time than I have in the past, and I just thought it was a lot of fun and something special. So if you're somebody who loves the 70s almost psychedelic pulpy science fiction stories, I think this would be a great fit for you. And it has a Star Wars skin on it, but it very much felt like some of those classic books that I've been really really enjoying now. It's I wouldn't say this is recommended reading for people reading through the canon or the Legends timeline, um, just because it doesn't really connect to anything else. It doesn't really have lasting effects, as far as I know from my sort of old knowledge of the Star Wars books. I haven't been up to date or anything, That's why I'm doing this reread mostly. But so it's not a recommended reading if you're just trying to get the like main juice out of it, but I think it's totally worth the read and totally worth checking out just for the sheer joy of it. But let me know in the comments, have you read these Lando Calrissian books? Do you agree with me that they have a more unique feel outside of the Star Wars books? And I want to know if you got as much enjoyment out of them, or if you felt like they were so out there that it sort of ruined everything for you. So I've been following Wikipedia's sort of legends timeline for my reading order of these books, and they say that I should be going on to the Death Star book next, but it felt out of place to me. It didn't feel right. So I'm not going to be totally 100% strict on my reading order. When things feel like they should be moved around just for my own personal taste, I'm going to do it. I decided to skip it for now, and I'm going to go back and finish the Han Solo trilogy with Rebel Dawn by A.C. Crispin. And so I'll be this will be the last book in that series, and I'll finally put a close on the Han Solo origin stories and move from there. But thanks for stopping by and enjoying these, going through this nostalgia trip with me through the Star Wars books. And I do highly recommend, reading the Lando Calrissian Adventure. It was a total trip. So thanks, and I'll see you on the next one.